Today, I want to explore some common statements that people make about health that they sound good when you hear them, right? They make a lot of sense, but I believe they warrant some further exploration. In fact, I believe the opposite of these common statements is really true. Hi, I'm Dr. Jarek Conrad. Welcome to Healthy and Black, where I share information about the state of health for Black America across 7 categories from emotional health to physical health. I became plant based over 15 years ago after losing so many of my family members to chronic health issues. Now I want to help you take control of your health. Welcome to this episode of Healthy and Black. I'm excited about this one. This is maybe a fun episode. I was speaking with a friend over the weekend, and this is a friend who is really a plant-based person who eats relatively clean, tries to be active, but she's frustrated with the results that she's getting. She's not where she would like to be. She hadn't lost the weight that she wants to lose. She's just not happy with where she is right now. And so I started asking her questions about the kind of things that she eats because, again, she's a relatively clean eater. So as we went through and she's sharing some of the things, I'm making recommendations. And she's like, well, wait a minute. I don't want to deprive myself. And I thought, that's interesting. I said, actually, you're depriving yourself when you continue to eat foods that don't have any nutrients. That's deprivation. Your body wants nutrients. Your body wants vitamins, minerals, proteins, carbohydrates, complex carbohydrates, fats, good fats, water. These are the 6 nutrients that your body really wants. Anything that you're eating that's not in one of those categories, you're depriving your body of what it needs to function. And we both were like, wow, that's pretty good. I said, well, I think maybe I need to have a podcast about these common things that we say that make a lot of sense, but upon further exploration, when you really get down into it, oftentimes it's the opposite that's actually true. So that's what we'll talk about in today's episode. Again, we have these 6 major nutrients that we need. We have the macronutrients. This is where we get all of our energy, our carbohydrates, our proteins, our fats. We have micronutrients. They aid in metabolism. That means that they help the body do the things that it needs to do, right? The processes that our body needs to go through. You get these organic materials called vitamins. You got these inorganic materials called minerals. Essential for us to live and thrive. And then, of course, water. So when people say I'm depriving myself, again, they're not talking about what their body needs. They're talking about what's going on in their mind. So this is really a misalignment between what's going on in the mind and what's happening in the body. Taste is in the mind. And so her deprivation, her comment around deprivation was all tied to taste. What I was talking with her about from a deprivation standpoint was, what does your body need? And so for us to advance, for us to make the gains that we want, for her to achieve the results that she would like to, requires kind of a realignment, a coming together, a joining, a uniting of the mind and the body. And that's why I'm such a fan of emotional intelligence as it relates to these conversations about lifestyle changes and health. So that's one of them. Number 2, and I didn't make this up. You probably have heard this before, but I think it's worthwhile. It fits as we talk about this. I'm not a quitter. You hear people say all the time, I'm not a quitter. Well, we don't really have a problem with quitters in our society. We have a problem with people that won't quit doing stuff. People that don't quit doing things that are unhealthy or harmful to them, or things that are unhealthy or harmful for everybody else. So smoking, drinking excessively, eating poorly, binging out on social media, other things that are just destructive, allowing toxins into your mind and body. We got to quit doing those things. We'll be better off as individuals, and we'll be better off as a society. So, in some cases, it's time to be a quitter. Here's another one, actually, in this same conversation. I'm picking on it today, but this person, smart, does a lot of research, and is curious about a lot of things. So we'll do research on social media. We'll see some studies that may suggest some of the things that we thought were true and not true. And so she'll look at those studies, and if it's based on something that she think is credible, she'll try to incorporate that into her life. And so she'll read another thing. She'll incorporate that. She'll read, and it feels like when people do that, I think that they are chasing something. They're chasing the thing. Here is the thing that is going to solve it all. Here is the thing that's going to give you the results that you've never gotten before. Here is the thing that's going to be magic and transformational for you. The thing is, there is no thing, right? Sometimes we have to be close-minded. Now, I get that that sounds strange coming from someone like me who believes so strongly in continuous learning. But in this case, what I mean by having a closed mind is being focused. We get inundated with all this information. It's disinformation, misinformation, fake news, even if it's something that might have some relevance. It doesn't negate the basics. Like, we got to get the basics down before we can start to explore other kind of things. So it's really important going back to those nutrients. We know we need those nutrients. So let's focus on that. Let's focus on getting the things that we know undeniably that our body needs for it to perform. Let's focus on the basic equation. You got to burn more calories than you consume if you want to lose weight. Like, that is the math. You can't consume more calories than you burn and expect to lose weight. And the truth is, most people don't know how many calories they consume. They make these guesses. Maybe they're educated guesses. In many cases, they're uneducated guesses. They feel like I worked out harder. I ate a little bit more, so I worked out. That's not a science. We need, if we are serious about weight loss or serious about muscle building or whatever it is we're trying to do, we got to have some metrics in place. We got to have some measurements in place, not just the scale, but the things that contribute to what ends up on the scale. And so measuring calories is really important, and understanding how many calories you're burning. And we have all kind of technology now that helps with that. And you get a sense of what that equation is like for you. Because this is snacking that does people in. I mean, you go and you get a handful of this, you get a handful of that. You do that 5, 6, 7 times throughout the day. That's more than a meal. You're probably taking in way more calories than you thought. So before we skip to special supplements and, this magic smoothie and this incredible pill that's going to do this, and this one exercise program that's so different than all the other ones. And before we do all that stuff, let's focus on the basics. If we get the basics down and we're still having some challenges, then let's have a conversation. But we skip over the basics. We move too fast, and it only results in us moving slower over the long period of time. So sometimes you have to be closed-minded. Here's another one that you've heard me talk about on the show before. I hear people all the time say, hey, the key is moderation. Moderation is the way to go. Well, that's problematic for many people. Look, my father was a heroin addict. I'm not trying to have a moderate amount of heroin. My sister, who passed away at 35, was a smoker. Most people would advise against smoking at this point, a moderate amount of cigarette smoke. I'm not going to take that risk. And again, if you ask the average person how many calories they consumed yesterday, they'd be very inaccurate. in terms of what they actually consumed and what they thought they consumed. So tell me, how can I moderate something that I don't have a good gauge on? How can I moderate it if I'm not even measuring it? If I don't have an exact kind of science around how to do this, we're we're left with guessing, and guessing is risky if we want the results that we say we want. So we have to be very careful around this, what I call the myth of moderation. There are some things that need to be off the table, literally off the table, figuratively off the table. They need to be out of your decision-making process. It's not doing anything for you, has zero nutritional value. Or if it's not even food, if it's something that is mentally impacting you in a way that's not healthy for you, don't engage in it. Get it off the table completely. Get it off the table completely. Let's be careful when we use this term moderation and we think about it as the be all, end all answer for all the challenges that we have. Here's another one. The key to good health is a balanced diet. The key to good health is a balanced diet. That makes a lot of sense on its face, but let's explore it more deeply. So a balanced diet. So does that mean that I can eat, this much bad stuff and this much good stuff? So I'm just balancing off. For everything bad I eat something good. I have a balanced diet. That doesn't make sense to me. Like, why would you cancel out these health promoting nutrients with harmful, health deteriorating things that are not nutrients? Like, if you do that, if you balance those, if you cancel those out, you don't make any progress. At best, you stay the same. At worst, you go back. But you don't make progress towards your goals of achieving great health. You don't make progress towards your goals of looking good and feeling great and fitting into your clothes and having all your health stats go down in a positive way. Canceling that stuff out, balancing that stuff in that way is not going to get you there. How about an imbalanced diet where you're putting in way more good stuff? You're exercising more than you're not. You're engaging in activities that are healthy for your mind way more than you're engaging in activities that are negative, that cause you any kind of anxiety or stress. We have to have an imbalance. It's essential that we have an imbalanced diet and an imbalanced lifestyle if we want to achieve results that are better than the results we have today. So be careful when you hear people talk about a balanced diet and what that means. So these are just a few of the common phrases or the belief system that we have grown accustomed to. It's what everybody thinks, and since everybody thinks this way, it must be right. Well, that's not true, because most people are struggling in some way with at least one chronic health issue. And so there's not a whole lot of wisdom out here about what we need to do, what it means to be healthy. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Healthy and Black. I'm glad you joined me. I hope that I've given you here's another one. Instead of food for thought, I hope that I've given you some thought for food. I'm going to write that one down. Some thought for food. In other words, I hope that I have you thinking and more intentional about what it is you're putting in your body, as well as how you're taking care of your mind and body. I'll see you on the next episode of Healthy and Black. But until then, don't let culture, cost, or convenience ruin your health. Thank you. Thanks for joining me for this episode of Healthy and Black. I'm your host, Dr. Jarek Conrad. If you have feedback on today's episode, please email info@jarekconrad.com. I'd love to hear from you. Don't forget to visit jarekconrad.com to subscribe to my blog. Thanks for listening. Please tell your friends about the podcast. Until next time, don't let culture, cost, or convenience ruin your health.